Right, well, we had a very fascinating talk this morning from Brian, focusing on the entrance to and into life after death. I'm sure we've all learnt a lot from that enormous research which Brian has put into that. But we're going to do a 180 degrees turn, because we're going to be looking at or working towards thinking about all the people out there, good-hearted, non-religious people who can't find a way to believe in God, personal God, or in life after death. Good-hearted people that you will know lots yourselves, and some of them you might feel they're pretty angelic. I think they're much better than I am. So that's the program. Our focus is a different one, but I will be bringing in Doctrine to aid us in beginning to make a switch from thinking about and talking about God as a person and God as spirit, and in fact love itself. When I was growing up in a new church minister's household with an elder sister who was a Sunday school teacher, not the only one, where I was learning about the Bible, and we used to have a national exam every year because there were lots of new church people in those days, and I used to take the exams which were concerned to get us children and boys and girls to learn about the stories in the Bible and be examined on them. I didn't take to this at all. The Bible, which I was certainly learning a lot about, didn't appeal to me particularly at all. And when I first was going to university, I was beginning to experience doubts about belief in God, which happens, of course, to a lot of our young people when they start to go to university and get into discussions with others. It's not that I actually lost my belief in God, but I found myself seriously questioning it. And then when I was about 20, I came across this book, The Divine Love and Wisdom by Micael Swedenborg. I had a new church minister as a father, but he decided, which in some ways I quite applaud, he didn't push any of his religious teachings or Swedenborgian beliefs upon me. I was left to discover for myself, and I discovered the divine love and wisdom. Now, this is a unique book in a way, because although it makes reference to verses from the Bible, it is not concerned with the Bible, it is concerned with the nature of God. It is almost, you might say, pure philosophy, theological philosophy. It's not biblically focused. And I was fascinated by this. And in some ways, you might say, I'm here today as a new church minister because I discovered this book, remembering that the Bible did not appeal to me. I especially didn't like my big sister being a Sunday school teacher. So, what does this mean? You'll understand, I think, as I go along. because this, although it does talk of God as a person, what it focuses on is the nature, the essence of what we call God. The term God is not really universal. If you talk about God with other people, you might have to find out, well, do you believe in God? Yes. Which God? Christian God? Muslim God? Hindu God? Which do you believe in? You see, this term God is only like a place marker. It doesn't really tell you what you or some other person actually believes in. Yes, they can all say God, but that could all be very different when they start to try and explain what God means to them. Now, if you look at your slide, your diagram 1, I have drawn a picture there of the great language barrier, as I'm calling it, between Christians and secularists, or, I like this term now, good-hearted non-believers. Good-hearted non-believers. And there's a barrier because when we want to talk to them about what we believe in, we can't help but bring in personal God and life after death, as we were learning about before our lunch. So there's this great barrier between religious language and what we might call non-religious language. So the aim of this talk, as if you've read the little blurb beforehand, you will know that it's about how can we connect with good-hearted people who just can't believe in God or life after death. And I won't go into the details of all the reasons why they may not, but except for one that I'm going to focus on a little later on in my talk. A great cause for people who are really very good, unable to cope with a personal God or belief in life after death. Now, I'm going to have to fiddle a bit between my different things here. Now, here we are. You don't have this because it's only words. On May 22nd, someone who's become very famous spoke out, Pope Leo XIV, and he said, faith should not be used to build walls. It should be used to build tables. That was how he put it. Obviously indicating that we need to find ways to be able to communicate, relate to other people than our own religion or no religion at all. I have slightly modified that, and the way I've put it, I'm saying here, religion should not be used to build barriers between themselves and the non-religious. Religion should be used to build communicating bridges. How do we do that? How on earth do we avoid not needing to talk about a personal God and life after death? The traditional Christian essentials for being saved and being able to enter a lovely existence when we pass over to the other side. I'm listing these as: you need to believe in God, personal God, and worship Him. You need to believe the Bible is the Word of God. You need to believe in Christian theology. You need to believe in life after death and attend religious services. So that was traditionally very much the barrier between how Christians saw those who could be saved and those who wouldn't be. Now, I'm sure today, if we're thinking about all the young people growing up, as well as their adults as well, you know that in this country and in Europe in general, we are becoming a more secular society. So many people born today and their parents have never read, looked at the Bible. It's just a non-entity. They may have picked up, things like, there's an Adam and Eve story, and so on, things like that. But the Bible is just not part of their growing up. Also, they grow up in the aftermath of Darwin, and Darwin brought about a vicious blow against belief in the evidence for a God in nature, the evolution. You will know, I'm sure, a fair bit about that. And yes, I've mentioned that. The divisiveness of traditional means of obtaining salvation after death. Very, very divisive. I'm sure all of you here, when you are with your good-hearted non-believers, you can't imagine them not ending up in heaven after death, even though they don't believe in a personal God and they don't believe in life, can't find themselves to believe in life after death. Despite what Brian was pointing out this morning, is the growing enormous evidence through NDEs that there is a life after death. Now, Swedenborg talks about not only the church on earth, the new church, he talks about a universal church that there's always been. And he has an image for it, or he's saying that it is like the grand man. It's like the image of a human body with all its parts. You may be familiar to some extent with how Swedenborg describes the spiritual world and the heavens in particular as being like, and seen by God as being like one great human being, and we are all the many parts in it. And Paul in the epistles talks about how we, he's referring to Christians here, we are part of the body of Christ. So that image is well known. Swedenborg says the image, the grand man image, where the word is and where it is not, but still influenced by it, which is interesting. So one of the ideas, if that's the right way to put it, which is gaining some credence these days, especially due to a writer called Tom Holland. You may not know. I see one nodding head. Two. Tom Holland is pushing, don't mean anything negative by that, is pushing the idea or the realization that the Christian religion, or the coming of Jesus Christ and the Gospels, made open up the door to an amazing cultural change. And according to Tom Holland, society in the West is still, even though it may be becoming secular, not believing in a personal God or believing in the Bible and life after death, Nevertheless, in general, there is still a strong Christian sphere, not in terms of belief, but in terms of your attitude to life and how you want to live your life. The Christian influence is still there. And this, I would say, is evidence for Swedenborg's endeavour to get us religious church people, if you like, to realise that we're only part, what Swedenborg calls the heart and the lungs. We're only part of the Lord's church. So all these people outside that have another religion or no religion at all, many of them are probably, in the Lord's and angels' eyes, part of his church. And we can't see it because we tend to think very naturally and materially. We think from the outside, especially if a young man, goes to university and decides that he really can't believe in this God thing. That's just outdated. Can't believe in life after death. No real evidence for it. Despite what Brian gave us this morning, the people with this scientific materialistic approach to life, they can dismiss all that Brian and all the books he's shown us this morning. They can dismiss it and say, in effect, well, it's due to drugs. It's hallucination. It can't be real. Nothing can be real except what you see physically and materially through your eyes. Now, I think you've got diagram. Have you got diagram 4?
No, just 5 the next one.
Sorry, all right. I thought I might get in a bit of a mess at some stage with this. So I had a slide called The Essential Qualities of the Lord's Universal Church. This is just my summary. If you want to, you can, from your knowledge, your reading, and your experience, you can make perhaps a slightly different list. But what I've come up with is the essential qualities of the Lord's Universal Church. Love, look up to and worship a loving spirit wherever it may be found. A loving spirit wherever you come across it. Love what is good in everyone. That's the good you can find. If you're having trouble finding it, search for it.
Is this the right thing we've got?
No, this is the next one.
The next one.
So you've got it in readiness.
Right. Yeah, no, this one's called Essential Qualities of the Lord's Universal Church. Love what is good in everyone, including enemies, because Jesus put that forward very strongly. It's linked to what we now call unconditional love. We could spend all day talking about how can we love our enemies and so on. What does that mean to us? Love what is good in everyone, including enemies, and care for their ultimate welfare. If we take, for example, Trump, who has just robbed the poor, he did on a reverse Robin Hood action. He has robbed the poor and given it all to the billionaires. I don't know whether you may have known that this bill was coming in Parliament, and it got passed by a whisker in the Senate and by another whisker in the House of Representatives. You're going to be hearing a lot about it. Poor America. People are beginning to flee from America because it's getting now into such a terrible state. It is billions of dollars that have been taken from healthcare, all the things that the poor people need to help them stay alive, and it is being poured into the coffers of the billionaires. goodness knows how many people are going to die as a result of that. Trump, we are being asked to look at him not with the eyes of hate and disdain and horror. What he's done, horror, but as a person, he's still a child of God. We are to care for and hope for his ultimate spiritual welfare. Whether he will get there is another matter, we don't know. But we're talking about our attitude, our relationship to people like him and Putin and Adolf Hitler and so on. It's our attitude, it's how we are to, as from a more angelic aspect, how we are to look at in our, as we relate inside ourselves, relate to people that normally you would call spiritually your enemies and enemies of society. And lastly, I've put desire well towards all and do good to them without thought of reward. That last phrase is very important. Without thought of reward. Because I'm going to point us towards here a great link between us. When I say us in this context, I mean us religious people, Christian, Swedenborgian, New Church, and whatever. How we relate to the good-hearted non-believers, and we can be linked by those times whenever any of us, we in here, those out there, do good and endeavour to live loving, caring lives without thought of reward. Traditionally, Christianity developed this idea of you've got to believe in what you're told. You've got to believe there's God up there who will reward you if you do what he says. And he will punish you severely if you don't. This is, we can call a transactional relationship. So I'm a Christian and I'm trying to be a good boy and do what is good in order that I can live in heaven after death and not have terrible punishment in hell. Now that's a weakness that the Christian church has not always overcome. They have transactionally stressed that be good and then you will not go to hell. Transactional. You see the difference between that and the true view which Swedenborg gives us, and which I believe is to be found out in this non-believing world of people just doing good because that's what they like to do. They feel better, they feel happier. They love helping other people. Right, that was diagram 4. Did somebody say there's a 5? Have you got a 5? Thank you. Now, I'd love to go at length into this. Some of you may have heard me on this, and I will have to take care to try not to spend too much time. But Swedenborg teaches us, and this is just one quote of many in the writings which are similar to this. He says, the thoughts of the angels of the middle heaven, although many times when he's talking about this, he just seems to talk about all angels, are all devoid of thinking from matter, materiality, material things. This wooden table, it's probably not wooden, individual person, which I'll come back to, space or time. He uses the phrase person rather than individual person. I took the liberty of adding individual, which doesn't change the meaning of Swedenborg's term, because then the word mist, M-I-S-T, can be formed, which is very interesting because in the Garden of Eden story, you may recall that the Lord caused a mist to form up out of the ground. And out of that you get the mythical story of Adam and Eve, which is like a mist from the outside over the underlying spiritual realities. So one of the things I'm going to be emphasizing is that I want us to try to put ourselves in the shoes of a good-hearted person who cannot believe in a personal God. As I say, I'm going to go on to perhaps one of the biggest reasons why that blockage is there for them. Matter, individual person, space and time. Some of this, of course, you will be familiar with, that in the spiritual world there is no space and time or matter. What you see is a correspondence. It is a kind of outward pouring from the spirit within you, heavenly or hellish or in between, and that is causing you to see either heavenly or hellish environment. Right, that's number 5. Number 6, you've got.
No, next one's number 10.
Oh, you haven't got 6. No, you won't have. No, right. Yeah. Right, this one's called angelic language. 3 quotes from Swedenborg. With the speech of angels, and here we're going to be talking very much about heaven after death. With the speech of angels, persons are not named. Instead, that which is in a person and makes him who he is. The angels, although they believe that we're all individual persons, individual angels or individual evil spirits or anything in between, they believe that, but their focus is not on how one person is another individual from another person over there. They are interested in focusing upon heavenly or the opposite qualities. So Swedenborg says, in the spiritual speech of the angels, there is no idea of person and place, but in their stead they have an idea of things and states in reference to quality. No idea of person and place. Don't take that too literally. It means that they're not thinking from, that there's Jack and there's Mary and so on. They're thinking about states and qualities. And lastly, I quote this from Swedenborg. And this is very important, and I hope you can try to grasp this, because it's key to the essence of the message that I'm trying to put over. Swedenborg says, think about God in terms of his essence, and from that about his person. And do not think in terms of his person, and from that about his essence. You get that? There's a number of nods around here. Just carry on, goes a bit further. For to think about his essence in terms of his person is to think materially also about his essence. Whereas to think about his person in terms of his essence is to think spiritually also about his person. It's a sort of it's a hierarchy between inner reality, which is transpersonal, and what is personal, which is a kind of container of that. That's 6. So you won't have 7. No, right. So it's common for us to, when we're thinking about, well, who is God? What sort of God is he? We think, and we're taught, God is love. Fine. But is that the wrong way around? If you're trying to think as deeply as you can about how this is what the angels can get hold of, that in fact it is love that is God. Now that's going to make all the difference between how we think about the non-believers that not rubbish, but just say, can't believe there's a personal God. I can't believe in life after death. Swedenborg says the very essence of the divine is love and wisdom. That's what I was getting from Swedenborg's book when I was about 20, that drew me into Swedenborg's writings. Divine love and wisdom are essential reality and manifestation. Thus, the very and only one reality. Swedenborg is not saying God is the one and only reality. He's saying divine love and wisdom are. And they manifest in what Swedenborg calls the divine human. And then when we come to the incarnation, that becomes flesh and blood in Jesus Christ. The manifestation of not a person, but of divine love and wisdom. Lastly here, from under this heading of love is God, it is told that the divine itself is divine love, and that divine love is the essential being, or esse. It's a Latin term, E-S-S-E, a Latin term that we translate as being. It's a philosophical term, but it means getting behind all appearances and trying to get in touch with what's the reality that lies underneath and behind all appearances. Divine love is the essential being, or esse, of all life. Then those who are endowed with some intellectual ability may indeed be able to some extent to grasp all this. I think all of you here have that spiritually intellectual ability. I hope so. Even so, he's referring here outside of this particular text. He's referring to people who don't believe in God. Even so, they do not believe it. For when they pass from the intellectual light in which they are then seeing things into their natural and sensory light, they sink into complete and utter darkness regarding this truth, and consequently into denial of it. It is divine love with its companion with wisdom, which lie behind absolutely everything. And Swedenborg has a special term for it. He says that is the divine itself. And the divine itself manifests in a personal form that he calls the divine human. So the underlying reality is what we call transpersonal. Or Paul Tillich, a famous American theologian, some of you may know of. I know at least one person in this room knows this. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Paul Tillich talks about the God above God. In Swedenborgian terms, that is the divine itself, which is, inverted commas, above the divine human. The divine human is the envelope. It's the personal appearance through which the divine itself, the absolute reality, comes. So yes, we're talking very deep stuff here, and I'm only doing that. I don't want to get you to try and grasp things like the infinite nature, the divinity, and so on. I want us to learn how to look at those people out there a bit differently in how it is that just because they don't as yet anyway believe in a personal God, and they don't believe there's real evidence for life after death, that should not be something that causes a barrier or a difference between us. Now, famous name for me as a scientist formerly, and perhaps if you're thinking in terms of science, perhaps for you too. But I'm thinking of, anybody like to guess who I'm thinking of?
Albert Einstein?
Exactly, Einstein. Here's a quote, not from Einstein, from somebody else. I don't know this person, Alberto Martinez. He says that over the years, he explained that Einstein was religious only insofar as he felt a deep sense of wonder and reverence for the laws and mysteries of nature. Now, I come to something that probably none of you have heard. It comes from his latest writings just before his death. He wrote letters, one in particular to his granddaughter, that I'll come to in a moment. So I've selected, to keep things as brief as possible, this particular phrase that I warm to very much. Einstein wrote towards the nearness of his passing into the spiritual world. He wrote, "Love is the force that unites what logic separates. Everything that resists breaks, but love passes through." It's something that one needs to think about and dwell upon. But you get the point here. Einstein is elevating love above all else. And so I'm going to go on from that to, yes, I can. Love is the force. Now, he's a scientist, he's not religious. It's the force that unites what logic separates. It's translogical. No good trying to think about, what things are, where they really come from through logic. You won't get there. It's something that is felt, experienced. And then he says, yes, everything that resists breaks, but love passes through. And that reminds me of the barrier on your first sheet, the barrier that can be erected between the believers and the non-believers, between Christians and non-Christians, and even atheists. Love passes through. It doesn't break the connection between the Christian and the non-Christian, the non-believer. Doesn't break it. Love passes through, and that's why the third circle is on that picture that I've got there. But now, a bit more from Einstein. This is in a letter that he wrote, I think virtually on his deathbed, to his granddaughter. There is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to. It is a force that includes and governs all others and is even behind any phenomenon operating in the universe and has not yet been identified by us. This universal force is love. When scientists look for a unified theory of the universe, they forgot the most powerful unseen force. He's writing this to his granddaughter. This is deep stuff, isn't it? I don't know anything about his granddaughter. Maybe she was a scientist. Going on, love is light that enlightens those who give and receive it. Love is gravity because it makes some people feel attracted to others. Love is power because it multiplies the best we have and allows humanity not to be extinguished in their blind selfishness. Love unfolds and reveals. For love we live and die. Love is God, and God is love. If we want our species to survive, if we are to find meaning in life, if we want to save the world and every sentient being that inhabits it, love is the one and only answer. Perhaps, I'm nearly finished, perhaps we are not yet ready to make a bomb of love. Strange phrase, a bomb of love. A device powerful enough to entirely destroy the hate, selfishness, and greed that devastate the planet. Now remember, Einstein never professed to being religious. He was brought up in a Jewish family, and he didn't follow Jewish religion. He didn't believe in a personal God. But he believed in love. You see the connection between inside the barrier and outside the barrier. The connection with the barrier, which is thrown up, is: do you believe God is personal, or do you believe in a personal God, or do you not believe in a God at all? Love passes through that barrier. Amazing words written. Some of his last writings have only been discovered very recently. They've been dug up, found in an old trunk or something. I find that staggering. Right, where are we up to? Yes. Now then, 10. Have you got? Is that the next one? Yes. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. So I'm going to read this, which you'll be familiar with, and I want you to tell me what you notice that is perhaps a bit different to what you read in translations of the Bible. A time is coming. Do you know who Jesus was talking to? Samaritan woman at the well. Matter of interest. A time is coming and has now come when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. Spirit is God, and his worshippers must worship in spirit and in truth. Now, any of you spot what is different to what you will find in probably, as far as I know, all translations of the Bible?
Holy Spirit?
That's our translations, yes. So I looked up the Greek, of course. And what does the Greek say?
It's ambiguous because it is in the middle, so both are in the nominative.
Right. Spirit is, which you are expected to put in, spirit is God. So we've got another fundamental term here. We've got love and we've got spirit, or as I like to do, is the two can be combined. We're talking about the spirit of love. Now you see, we're not talking about a personal God in this area that we're in. We're talking about something which is experiential, something which can be hoped for, aspired to, but something which can be actually experienced. Pure, unconditional love. And we're not having to go inside the barrier and talk about, well, yes, we must believe in a personal God. Now, none of this is saying there's anything wrong, far from it, in believing that God is personal, and that is how, in general, Swedenborg addresses his Christian audience. Remember that Swedenborg normally is addressing an audience which knows the Bible, has its own ideas about the Bible. That's the Word of God, and yes, of course, there's a personal God. And so he goes along with that. But read Divine Love and Wisdom and sense that the emphasis of Swedenborg is on a quality of spirit, divine love and wisdom. And only from that do we have this container which we call personal. So you have 11. Oh, it's only coming round. Is everybody? Oh, no, not quite. This is my attempt to try and get the idea over a bit. Somebody gives you a can full of strawberries. I'm on the left side here. So you've got a container that says strawberries. It labels it. And inside you've got the contents, the actual strawberries. So which is more important? Is the importance in how nice and attractive the container looks? Or is it important as to whether when you open it up you find that the strawberries are delicious and fresh or they're rotting? Right, moving to the right, we have this concept of person. Now what I'm trying to get over here is that the word person is referring to what I'm calling a container, or we might use the term channel when we're thinking of hoping to become or to be a channel of peace. So a person, so he's called John Smith, but what are his qualities? The angels are not interested in whether John Smith is called John Smith or not. That doesn't bother them. It's the quality. Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So in the third, going to the right again, I bring in, for contents, I bring in the divine itself, the Swedenborgian concept. And that is contained in what can be called sometimes the face of God. And here, of course, we link in to Jesus Christ. He who has seen me has seen the Father. The Father is in me, and I'm in the Father. But you see, underneath I've put the title God. So again, here I'm trying to bring out that Jesus Christ, who has he has a form, he has a face, he has a body, and so on. But this is just a container. Before Jesus came on earth, it was the divine human. It was the divine itself, love, which can only make itself visible in a personal way. It has to appear personally. And that's why Swedenborg stresses that we should worship not the divine itself so much as the divine human. The visible God we're called on to worship, not the invisible God. But the invisible God is there. Yes, Mary? Oh, yes. Oh dear. Right, moving on. Doesn't the time fly? Now, 13. I don't think you do have
Yes,
13.
we have 13 here. Yep, so we have got this 13.
Thank you. Now, I may be about to disturb you, possibly. Prepare yourselves. I hope it does disturb you. And if it doesn't disturb you, then I'm a bit worried about you. This is technically called the problem of theodicy. Never mind about the technical term. The problem of God and innocent suffering. The all-powerful, all-loving God often allows prolonged, intense, agonizing suffering that with some people goes on and on and on, and may be endured by countless animals in creation, obviously very innocent, and children and adults. And so I put it to you, if you were God, would you, or even could you, do that? Really? Could you allow that? Think, feel it happening now. The millions in America, the poor, who are about to be going begging for bread. They have nothing to help them put food on the table. Where's your compassion? Or are you heartless? Now, I think most religious people, if not all, they've got some awareness of this problem. But what we do is we think we have a sort of a glib answer to it. Well, of course, God knows all sorts of things that we don't know. He knows better. And with something like that, we tend to put it to the side. We close our eyes almost to it. We want to not be forced to look at it. And yet, Swedenborg writes, the prevention of the good from suffering harm is an act of mercy, which seems to make God completely unmerciful. Well, I shouldn't say completely, but very unmerciful. Now, I would run a class or run a group having a session to focus on this. I haven't done so yet, and it would be a very uncomfortable one. It is very, very uncomfortable to me. Why do I bring this up? I think you know where I'm going. What about all those good-hearted people out there that can't stomach this, all this innocent suffering? How can you believe in a loving God?
Well, I think your God is not a person.
Well, yes.
It's a force, a blow.
Yes.
You might as well blame the sea for shipwrecks. The sea doesn't make a decision to sink ships or form a tsunami.
But who allows it?
I mean, my idea of a personal God is that I experience it personally by tapping in to this force of love.
Right. Yes.
And I would explain it by the visible face of the invisible God, as your old-fashioned Christians put it, Jesus. So I think it's asking the wrong question. I don't think God, the force, can do anything directly. But we, by tapping into that force, may be persuaded to take personal actions to relieve the suffering.
Do you know that Swedenborg completely doesn't face this question? He'll talk at length in Divine Providence, the book I've got here, about the problem of evil, but he won't attempt to explain natural disasters that can cause, an enormous amount of real suffering. like what you're mentioning. So, but what you're saying, Trevor, is that you're, I think, following a line that I'm trying to follow, at which, I don't move along it comfortably, but to be saying, maybe I've got to put the person aspect, not deny it, but put the person aspect to one side and do what you've just been suggesting, which is.
I mean, we are God's hands and feet.
Yes.
We're the ones who can change things. I think it was Mother Teresa who said when she was young, she believed prayer changed things. And then she realised she was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Prayer changed people.
Yeah.
And people change things. We can't pass the buck to God.
Nevertheless.
And I think you could explain that to people and they would agree with you.
I think the people who are kind-hearted non-Christians, they would say that clearly some suffering is man-made, but there's other things which are completely out of the ability of people to be able to act against it. How do you explain that?
Towards the end of the 19th century, there was a man born in Austria, and he nearly died of an illness when he was a boy. Do you know who I'm referring to? Adolf, you're on them all. Adolf Hitler. I suppose you were in charge, you were God, controlling everything. Now I ask you personally, if you put yourself in God's shoes, I know of course in one sense, we say rightly, we can't do that because, he's infinite and we put the problem back to the infinite. But personally, and this is what I'm referring to, because I'm thinking and asking all of us to think about the non-believers, good-hearted non-believers out there. Would you not have let young Adolf, die? Nobody would know that you engineered things a bit to do it, when he can see the Holocaust down the road. Now, I said I'm going to make you feel uncomfortable, and that's good. If you feel uncomfortable, you're not heartless. But if you brush it aside with, oh well, we're only finite. God knows why He's doing all this, and that is a kind of answer that religious people have tended to leave it to God. But if you're face to face with severe, prolonged, agonizing, going on day in, day out, month by month, year by year, with somebody or some people that are right there in front of you, how can you permit that? So I'm not trying to cause you to lose your belief. Far from it. I have not lost my belief in a personal God, and I don't think I ever will, but I'm deeply troubled. It hurts me to think of that. We know that a lot of people today are losing their Christian faith. A lot of people are still, because I picked this up on the net, a lot of people are giving up on Christianity. One of the reasons is this problem. But you'll be glad to hear also, when you follow things on the net in this sort of line, there are still a lot of people who were atheistic and have become converted to Christianity. There still are people going the other way. So, and as I say, a lot of deeply thinking religious or Christian people have been perhaps to some extent painfully aware of this problem, but it tests their faith, perhaps quite severely at times, but they come through and they still believe in God. But what about if we turn this round and say, do you believe in love? Do you believe in it as an experience? Do you believe in it as something that you've experienced? Do you believe it's something, I'm talking about unconditional love, is this to something that you aspire to oh, I wish I was more loving in that way. Now, this is a very, very serious point because it relates to the fact that the non-believers out there may be in the same boat that we ought to realize that we are in. We're in it together. And this is what I believe Swedenborg is referring to as his universal church. And his universal church is having to face this serious problem. Can you still believe in a loving God? I can't say, of course.
My Christian faith has never been stronger than it is today. And I try to follow the teachings of Jesus, and as you'll be aware, Michael, there's a resurgence of Christianity in Europe at the moment amongst Generation Z.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
Half the Catholics in France are aged between, I think it's 18 and 25.
I know, but you can't use that to say, yes, I can happily see this awful suffering going on around me, and it's going on and on and on, and I have the power to make it a bit different somehow.
So you do. You can't leave it to a...
No, I mean, if you're God. If you're God, you know, like...
He's not, and now and he's returned.
So
it's about action.
Yeah. Again, what I'm trying to, I'm sorry to chip in a bit. I mean, I'd be very, very happy to talk with you, and I'm very interested in where your heart and your thinking are taking you. But my point is how we think and feel and understand and relate to the non-believers who, in the main, it might be because of this problem that causes them to say, I'm sorry, but I can't believe in God. But their life evidences that they believe in love. So what is God? God is first and foremost, in Einstein's words, a spiritual force, a force. And secondly, this manifests itself in people like you and me and people out there. There is evidence for unconditional love. So you see the connection that there is between us and them. And so we need to be learning how to share deeper things with them without bringing in a personal God or life after death. Yeah. So this is something that we, I'm beginning to do it. I think, I don't know whether Stephen, as I know that you're concerned about Swedenborgian language, but I think we need to make a more combined, stronger effort to see that this is a problem that it's important for us to face. We may be part of the heart and lungs of the grand man, which Jesus and the Lord is saying is his church, which has much more than heart and lungs, but it has organs and muscles and everything which are vital, not to be turned into a heart, part of the heart and part of the lungs, but to do their function in their own way. But if they're part of this grand man, this great human aspect, then what they're doing and striving for is being motivated by love. And yet there may be no belief in a personal God there. So, time is running out. Have we got any time left?
2 minutes.
2 minutes? Oh boy. Well, I'm going to...
Michael, you started out by, you didn't start out, but down at the Doctor diagram 5, you were talking about the thought of angels devoid of matter, individuality, space and time.
Yes.
And yet this question is couched in terms of matter, individuality, space and time.
Yes. Good point.
Does that take away the pain, the suffering,
No,
which is physical
no.
and mental anguish?
It allows us to look at it in a different way.
Yes, right, yes. So I'm saying I think we, as a church, we should take on a responsibility on learning to be able to share deeper spiritual things about one's personal life with those that don't believe in God, and help them through this. But if they still can't believe in a personal God, because of the reason we've said, that we can still know that they are brothers and sisters, that they are part of the Lord's church, and they are different to us in some of their beliefs or the ways they go about things, because they're not the heart, they're not the lungs, they're part of the leg or the liver. Their function is not to think and see things exactly the way we do, but they are to receive in their own way the light that comes through the incarnation, resurrection, and the Bible as the Word of God. That is to throw light, to affect their cultural way of life, to bring it to be centered, focused on love, not on belief in God or no God. I'm going to have to stop there because time has run out. But Christopher, I'll just say what I've put together here is I've called it initiating a dialogue, opening up a more spiritual language to bridge the religious language barrier. So this is a beginning only. If we'd been in groups, you'd have a chance to see what you felt about this. But I'd like to say I hope that this sets something going with you, and you will find your own words and through your own experiences with the what I call the good-hearted non-believers. So it's just a beginning. And there I will have to leave it as the clock once more is against me. So may I just, it'll only take a brief moment. If we'd been had time to go into groups, this is what I would have asked you in groups to do. Endeavour to put yourself in the shoes of a non-believer or atheist. Assume your doubt or even deny that there can be a God, because